About our wonderful Chris and Susie Shroyer. And yes, we share the same name, last name, Shroyer, like Shroyer Road in Dayton. And we don't know if we're related. We're going to go with we are. That's how we feel about it. And so they have been together for 40 years. They have 8 children, 12 grandchildren, and I can attest that they have a lot of chickens, turkeys, and a lame duck at their house. We met them all. And they live in a beautiful property out in it's Inglewood, but it's Phillipsburg Union Road. And I don't know how long I've known you, Chris, but it's been a period of time. And one of the things that always sticks out in my mind about Chris is not that they're quiet. They are not quiet when you get to know them. But he walks in great humility. And I think today he may share some of that. He said, well, if I'm going to share, I'm going to be real. And I'm going to give it to him straight. All right. Can we take it? Yeah. All right, come give it to us straight, Chris Shroyer. We'll take it.
Wow. Thank you so much. God bless all of you. I brought these notes with me. I was preparing for this teaching. I wanted to show God the glory for what He's done. So when I was sharing this, I thought, how do you prepare for something like this? For 30 years, I was just in complete ruins and wreckage. So I wasn't sure how to prepare. Do I put something down on paper? Because I really wanted to do it from the heart. I wanted to show people, not what Chris Shroyer has done, what the glory of God has done. That's what I wanted to show. So I told God, I said, how do I prepare for this? He said, prepare your heart. I said, well, what's that look like? And he said, keep doing what you're doing. I said, all right. So that's what I did. Now, I ain't gonna lie. I put some notes together because I thought, I just know me because when I do something like this, I have one of those. Let me tell you something real quick. I absolutely have the love of Jesus and God in my heart, but I have got a PG-13 personality. I'm sorry. So if I say anything off color, please, I do not mean to offend anybody. But my brain farts once in a while, especially when I'm in front of a group of people. So I put that there as a checkpoint. That's just if I have to go back to it, but I don't think I'm going to have to right now because I feel pretty darn good. But what I wanted to share first was this ministry. This ministry, this family here, you saved my life. For 30 years I drank. And I always look back, I think, my goodness, how did that start? Where did that even come from? All my life, I heard a guy say this about 10, 15 years ago, and I thought, man, that is so me. All my life, I had a tremendous ego and very low self-esteem. And it's been like that my entire life. My wife and I are fairly quiet when we're here, and it's only because we've never felt like we were worthy enough to be with you folks. That's how much you mean to us. We see the love of Jesus in this room, and that's what this ministry has shown me. I've realized over the last 15, however long it's been, there's 2 types of churches. There's a church that absolutely loves their religion, and then there's a church that loves their people, and that's this church. Tanya has always been my encouragement. I never felt like I was good enough to go to Tanya and ask her for things or talk to her about different things, but whenever I did, man, she was right there. She's always, man, if I could have another sister, an older sister, somebody that could give me pearls of wisdom instead of me being the older brother and having to give my sisters those pearls of wisdom, if I could have somebody like her, it'd be awesome. And then you got Kevin. Prior to me getting my deliverance from drinking, when I was drinking, I was not a good Christian. Now, I had what I thought was a heart for God and a heart for Jesus. But I was not living that at all. And during that time, we were just absolutely flat out broke. We had nothing. We lost our homes. We lost our cars. We had a couple that were repossessed. You know, I never felt like we were homeless, but we didn't have a home anymore. Towards the end of this, we didn't have a home anymore. And all I could think about was survival. And whatever it took, I was going to survive. It didn't matter if it was honest, dishonest, it didn't matter. But Kevin, he learned, let me rephrase that. He taught me how to love the unlovable. I would go to Kevin, and I was in desperation. We'd pray together, and I look back on that, and these prayers were nothing more than just desperation. I had to have answers right then. Kevin, his heart, he wouldn't say a whole lot. He just said, "You big dummy. One of these days you're going to get it right." He had to be thinking that because I would have. But he continued to love me through the whole process. And then Tom, man, oh man. You want to talk about a man's man? He showed me how to love Jesus. He showed me who Jesus was. And I am indebted not only to God and Jesus for what they've done in my life, but this church, this ministry. This is not just the ministry of healing disease and sickness. It's a ministry of healing hearts and minds. You feel it when you come in here, don't you? I mean, when you walk in here. You know, this morning when I got here, I was telling everybody, I am an absolute wreck. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about today. It's been through my mind the last 3 weeks. I'm like, oh my gosh, let's just get this over with so I know what you're going to tell me. I didn't know what else to do. Even this morning, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait till this is over. But this ministry saved my life, and I am forever indebted to that. Yeah, it didn't take long, did it? So, I guess towards the end, like I said, we were homeless. We were living in my sister's 2-bedroom home. She had 1 bath. It was my daughter, my wife, and myself. My sister was good enough to give her bed, and then my wife and I slept on a mattress in the back room. Like I said, we had nothing. That's all we had. A car that we were driving was given to us by some believers in the Louisville area, which is where we were living at the time. Hey, Casey, do you have that picture, please, that I shared with you? I got to stand next to this picture. Okay. Anyways, I'd found this picture from back in 2011. It was the last, if anybody knows me knows I love football, and they know I love the Green Bay Packers. 2011, the Green Bay Packers were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Super Bowl. And I was bound and determined that I was going to take a picture of me in my Packers gear and put it on Facebook. At that time, my wife and I were living in an extended stay, along with my daughter, because we had no place else to go. My sister didn't tell me, but you know, after a while, family's wonderful, but after they've been into your home for any period of time, they're not so wonderful anymore. It's like, see ya, love ya. But anyways, we were in this extended stay, and I found this picture 3 or 4 years ago again. Holy cow, I weighed 220 pounds. My face was just all bloated. It was red. It looked like I had a sunburn. I mean, I looked awful. That was 2011. That was 2 years before I got deliverance here at the ministry. You know, I'd sit out here in church, and I'd cry because these teachings were wonderful. You people, my family, you're wonderful. And I would just cry and think, oh my gosh, I want what they have. I wanted it so bad, but I didn't know how to get there. I was so gripped by alcoholism. I absolutely gripped, frozen. There was nothing I could do to break that chain of alcoholism. Nothing. As a matter of fact, this is the first time. I love this song by Jason Crabb. I've heard that I don't know how many times, and I get just as much thrill and enjoyment out of it as the first time. Oh, whatever. Anyways, I don't know if you noticed today, but in his hand, he had a token similar to this. This is from a recovery program that I'm in. I had absolutely no idea that was in this video. This particular one that I have right here now is what we call one day at a time. We just take this one day at a time. But I was gripped. I could not do anything. My wife had moved back here, I don't know, 5-6 months before I did because she had just literally had enough. My daughter went off to Muncie College. What the heck the name of that school is? The college is up there. Well, thank you. At Ball State. And that was a fiasco in its own right. I could do a whole teaching on that. But I was here. Kevin mentioned about a men's ministry coming up in October. And I thought, I'm going to go to that. It just so happened that particular day I was sitting back here in a chair. And Jeff Shroyer was sitting next to me. And I'd lost quite a bit of weight because at that point in my alcoholism, my liver had become very swollen. My stomach was always sick. I couldn't eat very much. If I did eat, it was usually coming back up. My bowels, I couldn't control my bowels. It was to the point where I'm not going to go into that part of it, but it was awful. Jeff said, man, he said, you've really lost some weight. I said, yeah. I said, I've been drinking. He says, water? I said, no, not water. So from what I understand, I was the first person to sign up for that men's weekend. I was excited because Jeff had told me something that Tanya had done several months prior to that. It healed another fellow that was battling with alcoholism. So I went to the men's fellowship, and I told God, I said, Father, I'm going to tell everybody. I'm going to be absolutely 100% honest about what is going on. And I did. And I cried like a girl. Oh, it was awesome. I felt so good just being able to tell somebody. You know, I hid it for all of those years, I thought. Everybody knew I was an alcoholic but Chris Shroyer. And it was like that way for the last 10 years. Oh, Lord, I can't even tell you how awful it was. He knows. So I'm going to get right to it. The day that I was delivered, it was just like any other morning. I typically wake up. I got so good at planning my drinks ahead of time before I was going someplace to make sure I was just sober enough that I could get through that particular event, whether it be church or a graduation or whatever it was. You know, so I got up at 5:30 that morning. I got my half a pint of vodka because I knew that was the only way. If I didn't take off that edge, I knew that I wasn't going to get through that morning. So I had my vodka. We came in. After church, we went to lunch, came back, and I don't remember a lot about what happened during that time, but there was two things that I do remember. The first thing I remember was the spiritual influence that I was under. I had no idea what that meant at the time. But I remember this deep, this laugh. There's something that came out of me. It was a deep, and I don't know that I can even replicate it again. And I thought, oh my gosh, where did that come from? I had no idea what that was. But I knew it wasn't Chris. And I remember saying something to Tanya, F off or something like that. She was challenging whatever was going on. She challenged it. And then the one thing I do remember very vividly was at the end, there was a man looking at me in the window. Now, all I could see was his face. But he had this very distinctive smile. I'd seen it before, but I just didn't recognize. But I could see it. And all I could do was smile back at him. Just within the last few months, Father had revealed to me, I was looking at myself in a mirror. That was the first time in 30 years I was free. It was the first time I could look in the mirror. Praise God, yeah? It was the first time I could look at myself and actually be able to smile. And I've been able to do that since that day. they'd even prayed for me to quit smoking. And I'm telling on myself here because I couldn't wait to get a cigarette when I got done. I've been drinking and I've been smoking. A nurse had told me, she says, you need to quit what's going to kill you first, which is the drinking. So that gave me permission to go ahead and smoke. Yeah. So even after we got all done and that afternoon, I go out and get a cigarette. I'm like, oh, holy. It was like the very first time I took a puff of smoke. I knew that I'd been healed of that too. But guess what? I still smoke. Just because I didn't make that choice. I was more focused on not drinking. There's a story I've told this to several people. There's a couple there in a small town, and they were hungry, and they thought, it'd be so cool just to find a nice little restaurant, a little cozy place to go in and have some lunch and check out the town that we're in. So they go in, a waitress seats them, and as they're going through their meal, they notice that the waitress on the inside of her arm, she has a tattoo of a fork. And they thought, well, that's different. They say, hey, do you guys mind if I move this? Yeah. You cool with that? Thank you. And he said, hey, do you mind if we ask what the significance of that fork is? And she goes, no. She goes, I have a dear friend that found out she was going to die. And when she found out she was going to die, she told the pastor, she goes, hey, the day of my funeral, she goes, I want to be buried with a fork in my hand. And the pastor said, well, kind of an odd request. He said, do you mind if I ask why? She goes, no, not at all. She goes, all my life, when I go to these large functions that serve food, she said, when they would come around to collect the plates from the entree, they'd always told me, hang on to your fork, because the best is yet to come. Well, the first thing, and I shared this with Kevin, of course, Kevin, it's pearls of wisdom, but the very first thing that came to mind was, I want to go to heaven, but I don't want to die to get there. And the one thing that really struck to me about then was, Kevin it did a teaching several years ago where heaven overlaps earth. Holy smokes, I listened to it 3 times. It's that good. It was good the first time. I had no idea how good it was the second, third, fourth time. It was good. Yeah. So, I just had no idea. I had no idea it was going to be this good. I knew sobriety would be good. I had no idea it could be this good. During that walk, during these last, it'll be 10 years, October 13th. During these last 10 years, I cannot even begin to tell you how my life has changed because of what the ministry and God and Jesus have done for my life and my family. My wife's not here today because she says, honey, she goes, I just don't think I can be there for that. She goes, I lived it. I said, yeah, I know. And I felt like God was telling me that, you're not going to say anything real hurtful. You're probably not going to do anything that's going to offend her. It's like I told everybody when I got delivered, I changed. I changed. You didn't. You're going to be the same person you've always been, the same wonderful person. Hopefully, I'm going to be a wonderful person as well. But during that time, the one thing, gentlemen, happy Father's Day to all of you. God bless your wonderful lives. The one thing that I never gave any respect or regard for was my wife. My wife. During that time, wow, what I put her through. The hurt, the anguish. I lost a job I'd been with the company for almost 16 years, and I lost a job because of my drinking. And then over the next 5, 6 years while we were in Louisville, I went through, I can't even tell you how many jobs I went through in that particular time. And my wife didn't have any choice but to go with me wherever I was going. And we had to move every year and a half, 2 years, just because the landlords finally got sick of us being late on our rent. And they'd give us the boot and we'd go somewhere else. She lived all that. I had zero respect for anybody. Anybody. The only person that mattered was Chris Shroyer. I was selfish and self-centered. That was the only thing that ever mattered to me, was my needs and my wants. I didn't give a heck about anybody else, even my wife. All I wanted to do was use people to get money to get something to drink. That was all I ever thought about. That was it. Kevin said something some time ago during that relationship conference. The key word, one word that I had absolutely forgotten about, was honor. Honor your wife. Man, that was powerful. I don't have extracurricular activities like I used to, whatever it be, going out drinking. And the thing is, I never went to bars. I always drank at home. I wasn't one of those people that wanted to go out and whatever. I was a home drinker, what we called a closet. My closet was in the garage. And, I had bottles hidden everywhere in case my wife found one. I'd always make sure I had it back up somewhere else, or anybody. Every night before I went to bed, I always got the bottle of water next to on the nightstand. So if I woke up and I couldn't sleep, I could take my water, and it put me back to sleep. So that was all I ever thought of. So the extracurricular activities are no more, because now, and gentlemen, I know most of you in here have, but if you haven't, now is the time to make that change in your life, where your wife on here in this earth, because we know it's God, Jesus, and then family. It's my wife and then my kids. But gentlemen, today it's your wife's day, because you need, I don't want to say it that way. No. I needed to understand the importance of loving and honoring my wife. That's what I wanted to do. She never gave up on me. Not one day. No, I shouldn't say it. She probably did. She's probably like, he's never going to stop. But I did. My family, as I said, was affected. My children, I have 4 children. Well, we had 4 children together. She had 4 when I met her. The 4 that we had raised together, I ruined them. And that's the thing I was good at. I ruined lives. I changed lives, and it was not for the best. And I hope now I get the opportunity to change lives, and I hope now it is for the best. But the ministry, oh my goodness. So my extracurricular activities now are my wife. And if I'm not doing something with my wife, I'm going to do something else with my wife. I don't go to men's fellowship. Why? Well, because I work Monday through Friday like most of us. On the weekends, that's my time with my wife. I know it's only 2 hours, but for 30 years, she had none of me. She asked to get all of me now. And I told Father, I will. And I can't wait for the next 40 years that we've got together for her and I to be measured. 40 years? Holy cow. I know. It's crazy. Oh, I forgot something real important. Who was here last weekend? Okay. Saturday afternoon. Oh, my gosh. Saturday afternoon. Keith was up here playing the piano. He was prophesying. And the music started getting louder and louder. And we were sitting over here, and I told Susan, I said, oh, my gosh. I said, here it comes. She goes, what? I said, just wait. And then, boom, just like that. Sue Dill stood right up there. And when she stood up, I saw steam this whole corner of the room. And I told Susie, I said, oh my gosh, there it is. She goes, I don't see it. I said, baby, it's there. And she threw up her arms. Oh man, the joy of the Spirit was just fantastic. Thank you for seeing that. And and I look back, it wasn't really steam. It was more like a vapor. And it kind of reminded me of James, where it talks about life is nothing but a vapor. It just made me, it was fantastic. We got home that afternoon, and the food, my goodness, the food here. Oh. We got home that afternoon, and we pulled in the garage, and I told Sue, I said, my goodness, I said, I'm exhausted. She goes, I am too. She goes, what do you think that is? I said, well, I guess our bodies do get old. Yeah? She says, yeah. I said, I guess our souls probably get a little old too. Yeah? Yeah. I said, but the spirit doesn't. I said, when the spirit's got that much joy in it and it's trying to work this old body, I said, you're darn straight you're going to be tired when you get home. So I can imagine what it was like for a lot of these people that were doing the teaching and the preaching. So, yeah, I got digressed. I have no idea where I was at before. I guess it doesn't really matter right now, does it, God? So, you know, I had all these wonderful things happening during these 9, 10 years. You know, my daughter got married about 3 years after, about 2 years after had my last drink. She got married down, or here, where was it at, Shroyer? Oh, down in Kentucky. And at the rehearsal dinner the night before, the parents of the groom, I'm almost ashamed to say this right now, but all they were doing is boo-hooing and boo-hooing about they were going to lose their son. He was going to move out of the house and start his life and whatever it be. We were here in Ohio. My daughter's in Kentucky. I'm like, what? I said, I'm losing my daughter to a 3-hour drive, and you're sitting here boo-hooing about this? No. My daughter must have caught something. She must have seen that something that was happening. She goes, Dad, I got something for you. And again, this was at the rehearsal dinner. So I had this little box, and I opened up this box, and there was a handkerchief all folded up, looking nice in this box. And then there was a note. She said, Dad, she says, thank you for showing me that it's never too late to start over and become the person you were meant to be. Whew. Man, I'm telling you what, my whole mindset changed after that. I was just thrilled that she was getting married and that my new son-in-law was marrying my daughter. But it was those types of blessings that I started getting. And I wasn't getting them every day, but I was getting enough that I was just thrilled because it was a whole lot better than the way it used to be. Well, I wish I could write things down and remember, but I remember when I was drinking, this was probably 4 or 5 years prior to getting my deliverance. I remember Father telling me one day, he says, now more than ever, be strong and faithful. He was speaking to me then when I was even in my drunken state. He said, now more than ever, be strong and faithful. I thought, oh, what the heck does that mean? Well, within a week, I lost my job. A job that I said, like I mentioned, I've been with for almost 16 years total. Just the fact that he was speaking to an old drunk back then. Now, I got to tell you, was I strong and faithful? Of course not. Because at that time, if it took $1 to go around the world, I didn't have enough to get out of sight. I mean, we were just that broke. But we had enough people in our lives that would feed into the family every once in a while, just enough to keep us going and get the food in our belly. And obviously, I wasn't lacking for food if you could have saw that picture. But, you know, it was those things that I thought about. What happened was about 6, 7 months ago, I started doing my seek the kingdom first. You know, I've heard that my entire life of being in the ministry. Can I honestly say I did it? No. No, I can say I probably didn't do it at all. So when I started doing this, the very first thing that struck me was I heard that song, Redeemed. I'm not the person I used to be. Well, I knew that Jesus was the Redeemer. Okay, so what's that look like? What's that mean? So I looked that up. That's the very first thing I looked when I started looking for seeking the kingdom. So I looked up Redeemer. What is a Redeemer? Well, I saw 2 things that struck me. Number 1 was Avenger. Well, immediately, has anybody seen the movies, The Avengers? Yeah, they got all these superheroes in there. I saw Jesus like this, standing on a mountain, his hair blowing back. He's got this, you know, this outfit on. You see stuff blowing. You know, that's my superhero. He redeemed. He paid the price. He's the one that gave me this opportunity. And then I saw revenge. Okay. That sounds like a pretty harsh word, but when it comes to the enemy, it's pretty sweet, honestly. Because then I seen what Jesus had done for me. He had revenged me. How do you say that? He took care of the enemy when I couldn't. He got all that out of the way. And it started getting exciting. So then I started looking at different things. And it's crazy. It's amazing when you start getting into the Word and you start looking at all the things that open up, like, oh my God, I could be here for years and years and years and still never get what I want. Oh, you get a whole lot more than you want because it takes a whole lot longer than that to share what you've learned, which is just exciting in its own right. So I kept delving into things, and I got to look at my notes here. I'm sorry, but I cannot remember where that is at. I had remembered the first night that I had, the first night without a drink. Now, mind you, in the past, when I tried to stop, even for short periods of time, I think the most I ever got on those 30 years of drinking was 3 months without a drink. So, keep that in mind, because what would happen if I went any period of time without alcohol in my system, I would just start to shake. And my anxiety was just completely out of control. I had to drink just enough to keep that anxiety down. Just enough so people wouldn't know, I thought. But, obviously, at that point, because I was drinking there at the end about 2/5 a day. And I was drinking the good stuff, the cum choc to the bottom shelf stuff. You get I don't know, what is it, a fifth, I think it was, for $8, $9. So, I could swing that. But I got to be a lot of their favorite customers in all these liquor stores, I thought. They were just thrilled I was coming and spending my money buying their vodka, I guess. But, my body would shake. I would convulse. I would just sit there and I can't even tell you what it was like. It's like I was freezing to death. My body would just start, I don't know if it was like a seizure or what it was, but I just couldn't. I'd have to get a drink. That night, after I got delivered, I had nothing. I had nothing but calm. And I remember, and I shared this in my testimony, I remember when I closed my eyes and I looked up, all I could see were stars in our bedroom. When I opened my eyes up again, they were gone. And I closed my eyes and there they were. It was the darkest, blackest sky you'd ever seen. But every single star was so bright and so highlighted. All I could do was smile and knew that the Father was with me. Several years later, I was down on my back porch and I was praying. And I told Father, I said, man, if you were here right now, I would give you the biggest hug. And it was nighttime and I was looking up in the sky at the stars. And no sooner I said that, every single star in the sky started to blink. It was like something you would see on Christmas vacation when he plugs in the lights and you see everything. That's what I saw, was all these stars, and they were blinking. I never really understood the significance of these stars, what it meant. And I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, he thinks I'm a superstar. Or maybe he thinks I'm his rock star. And here's why I thought that. Anybody in here play air guitar? Yeah. Retired. Well, I thought, well, maybe, because I used to play a pretty mean air guitar. I thought, maybe that's what he's talking about. So I got my air guitar with me. Let me get this thing here. Oh, this darn thing's in the way. Okay. Wait a minute, I forget, it's been a while. Okay. All right. So, to show you a little sample of what I used to do. Anybody heard of smoke on the water? Yeah. Heck yeah. So, bing. Whoop, that's not it. Hold on, hold on. Bing. No, that's not it. Dum, 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 dum. Pretty good, yeah? Dum, 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 dum. Oh, it gets better. Chicka, 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 chicka. bow, 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 bow. Man, I was bad, but I was good. It's unfortunate, though, because that's the only song I ever learned on the air guitar. But I was really good at it. So, thank you, Father. So, the journeys went on. Well, when Tanya and I'm sorry about my nose, I had terrible allergies. When Tanya and Jeff were at the house and asked me, we were talking about it, and we thought Father's Day would be awesome, and that was on Thursday. That following weekend, I was out in the garage and cleaned up the garage. As she mentioned, we raised chickens, and I just had our brood boxes, which is what we keep in the garage. Sat there cleaning up the mess, and I was going through these shelves, and I come across this little tiny book, and it said, "The Prayer of Jabez." Anybody heard of that? Yeah. Have you read it? Right. My golly. So I thought, I am going to read that tonight. I have no idea where the book come. Susie had no idea where the book come. I thought, I am going to read that book tonight. Well, guess what? I didn't. I left it out in the garage on the workbench. A few days later, I went back out there and was doing something. I thought, I'm going to read that book. So I did. I can't even tell you how much. Now, mind you, it's been 10 years. Mind you, I've been on this journey for quite some time. This book, changed the way I go to my Father now and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. In 1 Chronicles, chapter 4, verse 9, in Chronicles, I'm sure most of you are Chronicle scholars. I know I wasn't, but Chronicles in there. In these paragraphs, it's talking about the lineage of families. So begot so-and-so, begot so-and-so, this family begot so-and-so. And then you get to verse 9 in chapter 4. And it's about this man named Jabez. Thank you. And Jabez, let me read that first. And Jabez was more honorable than his brethren, and his mother called his name Jabez, saying, because I bear him in pain. Jabez, translated, is pain. Okay, if you read the book, you know that. Now, in this book, the only thing, one of the things when I'm looking at something and trying to work the word, I don't want to work it to where it fits the point I'm trying to make or the teaching I'm trying to make. So I thought, some of that stuff's kind of speculation. But it said that the reason she called him Jabez because she bore him in pain. Well, one thing I noticed, and I was looking at the New King James, was him, bore him in pain, is in italics. So we know that was added. I really don't know what kind of pain she was in. But it says, because I bear him with sorrow. In the King James, it says, in the New King James, it says pain. Can we see the next verse? And Jabez called on the God of Israel, saying, Oh, that thou wouldest bless me indeed, and enlarge my coast, and that thine hand might be with me, and that thou wouldest keep me from evil, that it may not grieve me. And God granted him that which he requested. I thought, that's a pretty good prayer. Yeah. Not bad at all. But then he goes on to talk a little bit more about that. And this is what changed me. Indeed, in this particular verse is used as an exclamation point. It's like 1 or 2, 3, 4 exclamation points. It's, I would that you bless me indeed. Bless. I've always looked at bless as spiritual gifts. But he said something that just opened up so much more for me. Supernatural favor. Oh, Lord, I would that you would give me supernatural favor. That was just, whoa, supernatural. Spiritual is one thing, yeah? You can't see the Spirit. You know the Spirit's there. You feel it, but supernatural, we see it. We see it in the Word. It says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and rulers of the darkness. You darn straight it's supernatural. That's something we'll never see. The one thing I always, and Tom taught this some time ago, I will never confess with my mouth the name that starts with an S. He will always be to me the enemy. I will never give him what he thinks he deserves, and that's his name. He doesn't. Because the one thing I found out was Jabez means pain. King Solomon meant peace. We know what the name of Jesus is, and whenever we pray, we always say a name above all names. Jesus is the name above all names, isn't he? Yes. Heck yeah. I had no idea that's just that powerful. A name above all names. That's all I had to stand on is the name of Jesus. Because everything else is under my feet, and that includes the enemy. Absolutely just opened up so much for me and enlarged my coast. And if you looked at, I think in the New King James it says territory. Well, there's different things for it, but in the one I saw, in mine, thank you, it says enlarge my territory. And that your hand will be with me, and that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain. Now, please understand, I didn't work this a lot. I didn't work it a lot, really. But this word pain, I kept thinking, what does that mean? Based on the lineage, when I looked up at top of that, she said, I bore him in pain. From what I could tell, from what I've seen, he was a soldier. He was born to be a soldier, to protect the land that they had, whatever that might be. Maybe that's why he asked to enlarge his territory. I don't know. I'm speculating. I apologize. But from what I could tell, he was a soldier. And his mom bore him for that purpose, to fight, to protect the territory. So when he says that your hand would be with me, keep him safe, and you would keep it from evil, and that I would cause no more pain. I think, and I hate to use that word think, but he was tired of fighting. He was tired of causing people pain. But the thing that really if I go back to it, and all this is good stuff, don't get me wrong, but the one thing I always go back to is the spiritual or the supernatural favor. Excuse me, there's a story he talks about in this book. Mr. Jones, you've heard Mr. Jones? Mr. Jones dies and goes to heaven. And of course, the old apostle Peter, he's there to meet him. And Peter is going to take and give him a tour of his part of heaven where he's going to be staying. So as they're going through these beautiful streets, and Mr. Jones says, my golly, he says, you guys weren't lying. Those are gold, aren't they? Peter said, well, yeah, what do you think? But as they're going through there, Mr. Jones notices off in the distance, there's this great big building that stands by itself. There's no windows, and there's one door. And he says to Peter, he says, Peter, what's that? Peter says, that's something we don't really talk about around here. And he says, I don't think you really need to be going into that building. Mr. Jones says, okay. So as they're going through there, Mr. Jones is trying to get him into one of these. So I see that building back over there. I wonder what's in that building. So they get done, and Mr. Jones says, Peter, he says, you have got to take me over to there and let me go inside just so I can see what the heck's in there. Well, Peter begrudgingly says, all right. So they go over to the building, and no sooner does Peter open that door, Mr. Jones flies inside that door. Peter's like, oh my gosh, here we go, another Kevin Keegan. Oh, this is going to be a long day. I love you, Kevin. So Mr. Jones gets in there, and he's looking, and all he sees are just shelves and shelves and shelves. And on all these shelves are these white boxes wrapped with red ribbons, stacked on top of each other. And he also notices that there's names on these boxes. Mr. Jones goes to Peter. He says, Peter, he says, do I have one of those boxes here? Peter says, yeah, but we don't recommend that you go in there and take a look at them. Well, no sooner did he even think saying that, Mr. Jones was gone. He found his box. So he gets his box, and he just can't wait. He sits that box down, and he opens it up. And Peter notices the same thing he has seen time and time again, that look of recognition. Like Mr. Jones knows that's his box. And he hears a sigh. And he sees Mr. Jones shaking his head. Well, what was inside that box were the blessings that he had never asked for. His entire life, it was full of all these blessings. I had forgotten from the time that God had thought about Chris Shroyer being on this planet. He wanted nothing for me but the best and all the blessings that he could give, and all he was waiting for me to do was ask. But I didn't know to. My life was pretty good, I thought. So now, I know, and I know what this verse said, oh, bless me indeed. I thought, well, wait a minute. If there's things I'm not asking for, then I thought, well, no, wait a minute. How am I supposed to know what to ask for? If I've got all these blessings, what? I don't know what to say. I've got everything I think I need. I thought, well, I can take some more money. That would work. So, 12 days ago, every morning, I get up, I get ready, I get my truck, and on my way to work, I say, Lord Jesus, I would today that you would give me supernatural favor and enlarge my territory of influence. Now, I don't really know what that influence means. It's something that God put on my heart, influence. That could be a territory that's going to allow me to share the word more, which, let's face it, a lot of us don't. Let me rephrase that. When he puts that much on my plate, I'm like, oh, no, not today. No. I'll do it someday, but it's not going to be today. But how can I do that? How can I do that? I'm sorry. So I thought, how can I, what do I do? So now, like I said, I do this simple prayer. Now I go through the whole thing because, I was an alcoholic. And, that's something too, I got to tell you. I'm in a program that is for recovery, and there's other alcoholics in it, of course. And one of the things that, we're supposed to confess is that we're alcoholics. Even though we're not drinking, even though we haven't drank in 1 year, 10 years, 30 years, we are alcoholics, okay? Kevin said something to me a long time ago. He goes, Chris, you're not an alcoholic. And he says, do not let that define who you are. So when I'm in a meeting, I don't always do it. It just depends on how big my balls, how much courage I have that day. I am so sorry, so sorry. I'll often say when we're going and introducing ourselves, my name is Chris, and I am a son of God and a brother of Jesus. Now, you get some silly stares at you, or some goofy stares like, well, who are you? You're an alcoholic. Yeah, I used to be. I am not an alcoholic anymore. I am fully recovered. The obsession has been removed. That very first day in this room, 4 of the most wonderful people in my life gave me deliverance from something that had gripped me for so long. I was free. I mean, everything couldn't have been any more better. I just can't go on and on. I could good. I just say I can't. I could. Matter of fact, you know what's even scary? They only gave me 2 hours to put in 30 years of work. Fortunately for you, I got down to about 45. So, and then, I guess, well, let me finish while I was talking about this prayer. I work for a company that is mostly commission, and I get a small salary on a weekly basis. Normally with what I do, I average about $25,000 in sales a week, which is about $100,000 a month. So I started this prayer 12 days ago. In the first 14 days, it was 14 days because it was 2 days, yep. In the first 14 days, my sales in 12 days have been $86,000. Now that's more than $25,000 a week. That's getting pretty darn close to double. Why didn't I ask for that a long, long time ago? I don't know. But I'm leaving it up to Jesus now to know exactly what my gift and my favor is going to be for the day. I know I'm getting it. I know I'm getting it every single day because here's why. Prior to that prayer, I do a lot of blueprint takeoffs. I'm in the building industry. I'd get 6, 8, 10 takeoffs a day, and they average about an hour. So, I'm always behind going through these takeoffs and trying to get out to the other companies that, buy from us and all this stuff. Wilf can kind of relate to me. He did outside for a while, outside sales. So, God and the Lord, America. So, can somebody help me here? Where was I at?
The sales that you do on the outside.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I guess it wasn't that good, was it, God? Nope. All right. So, anyways.
Back to that prayer where you were praying.
Yeah. Oh,
That's right.
thank you. You're awesome. So I don't know what my what the gifts or the favor is today, but when I was getting all those, it gave me very little time to get out and take care of the things that were important. In those 12 days that I've been saying this, you know how many I've done since then? None. I mean, it was all I did all day long, trying to do that in phone calls. I had no more takeoffs. I'm thinking, well, how can you sell without takeoffs? Father says, you let me take care of that. And he did. $86,000, and I haven't done a takeoff all month. Now, where did that come from? It's just because finally the information was put in front of me. Finally, I said, okay, Father, I'll accept the challenge. Which reminds me, and I'm done. I hear this word surrender quite often. Surrender. Okay, surrender. What's that mean? Well, I know what it means because here's what he showed me. Oh, it was fantastic. Oh, it was good. That day that Jeff and I were sitting over here, and obviously Jeff, he knew I was broken. He could see it. He was trying to make conversation with me. I was so tired. Like I said, I was tired. I was whipped. For all those years, I thought I was wrestling with these demons just to stop. Not one time did I wrestle these demons. These demons were having the time of their life with me. I was fighting off the angels. It wasn't the demons. I didn't want to get sober. Angels, stay away from me. Stay away from me. And they go, no, we love you. We love who you are. You are one of us. That's why I'm not an angel. And they never answered. I thought, well, that's rude. But all that time, I wasn't fighting demons. I was fighting the angels that were trying to save my life. Finally, that's when you surrender. I surrendered to who I thought was what I thought was going to be the enemy. It wasn't. The angels, they're like, oh, about time. That's what it meant for me to surrender. Let the angels and accept what they're trying to do for me. I can't do that unless I'm going to this kind of stuff right here and preparing my heart. And that's what I tried to do for today, was prepare my heart for this. Only thing I can tell you guys, I'm so sorry. Some time ago, I got real excited. I was coming in here wanting to hug people. It's always neat when you get somebody, you can hug them. And I always thought, one of two things is happening. Either I'm hugging Jesus, or they're going to get the opportunity to hug Jesus. Amen. Because if you look at anybody in this room, you'll see the eyes of Jesus. You guys are the thumbprints of God, and that's what gets me excited. But I got so excited, I want to come in here and hug, and hug, and hug. And Judy, oh my goodness, she is wonderful. I come in here one day, and I was giving her a hug. She goes, okay. And I kept getting her hugs. She goes, okay. I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be hugging everybody I want to hug. If they want a hug from Jesus, they can ask. Or if I need a hug, I'm going to ask them. Because it was ironic, that following weekend and the next weekend, she was talking about hugs. And I thought, well, I'm not supposed to be hugging anymore. I'm not going to hug. But I did find that if I ask somebody, hey, may I hug you? They're usually pretty cool about it. He said, yeah, give me a hug. So, anyways, you guys are walking, talking miracles, and I am so thankful that you gave me this time. I have no idea what we just talked about, but I know I am as excited. And Jeff, he's got something I'd like for him to hand out. Please, guys, you are walking, talking miracles. And he has got so much for us. I don't ever want you to forget the best is yet to come. I don't care where you think you're at in your life. It can't get any better. The best is yet to come. I love you guys so much. God bless you.